Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, 'cause it's root for the home.
Twitch It Dolphin Media and Let's Get To presents The Joys of Mudville, a look at the current state of baseball. Now here's Jim, Andy, and Scott. And we are back here on The Joys of Mudville. Now, before we jump in, I'm going to do a quick shout out to the Baseball by Design podcast. I'm wearing the shirt. Paul Caputo's a contributor on Let's Get To. He also works for sportslogos.net, so he gets all the inside scoop on new logos. So check out the show. But we are back here with Scotty Mack and Andy Tom Chesson on The Joys of Mudville. And, you know, Andy and Scott, as we jump into this, I don't want you to think of me as the host. I want you to think of me as a non-binding mediator. Someone who's here to have no really positive or negative effect on anything. Andy, what do we think of this? The mediators being brought in for the lockout. Does that signal bad things or good things for you, or nothing?
It signals gaslighting, because it's exactly what it is. Rob Manfred has publicly asked for a federal mediator to end the lockout that he started. It is the Hannibal meme with Eric Andre. That man's dead. Why did the MLBPA do this? You are the one who locked everybody out. So asking somebody to come in and change your decision is just asinine. But it's this entire idea of starting to negotiate this through the media to frame it for the general public as the players are being unreasonable. The players are the only group in this two-group conversation who have bent at all. At all. The owners, to a man, under the direction of labor attorney Rob Manfred, that is his path in life, if you want to call that a path, are literally inflexible, unyielding, unwilling to bend, trying to break the union, and they're asking the mediator to come in and say, oh, hey, convince the Players Association that we're being super cool guys about this whole thing. They're the ones who locked the players out. They're the ones who are going to have to find some room to actually negotiate. And there's nothing a mediator, by the way, for the people that don't know, a mediation is non-binding. So anything the mediator comes up with, Major League Baseball doesn't have to adopt and likely won't. This is just show. And I don't understand the show, because it's gaslighting.
Scott.
They've met 4 times since December 1st.
Maybe they lost.
I'm just saying, if something's important, you learn this when you're 14 years old, right? If something's important, you pay attention to that thing, or that thing goes away. MLB wasn't. They had all of November to meet with the players. We'll wait. They had all of December. We'll wait. All of January, a couple of times, and then they're like, whoo, these talks they're difficult. I've got an idea. Let's call in a government official to break the logjam, because they are the people most known for getting things done. Like, what's wrong with this picture? I mean, I'm just, I'm going out on a limb here, but I have never been like, gosh, I got a stalemate. I don't know how to decide it. Let me contact someone in federal government. I'm sure they have great plans that will be able to help us all out. Like Andy said, whatever they come up with, they don't have to hold them to it anyway. So this is really cool. I guess I don't know. It just feels like they watched the last season of Brockmire and said, maybe this is how we do things.
Andy, you look like you had something else to add.
I don't know. I'm just now mentally watching Brockmire. That may be how I spend the rest of my day.
Yeah. Which is probably what the exact same thing that MLB executives are doing as well.
At the end
Jim
of that
Brockmire,
show,
voice of reason.
But at the end of Brockmire, weren't they drawing crowds of like 10 to 15,000, and he was credited with saving baseball to that level?
Oh my God.
to which Rob Manfred deems that as a success.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go back to the George Carlin thing. Randomly place landmines in the outfield.
But do you think, but
Tigers at second base?
But should we read anything into the presence of a moderator? Does it seem like, to me, it makes it seem farther away?
No, it's the TSA. When you're flying in the airport, the entire thing is for show. It's making you feel better that we're trying to be good guys. We're trying to do something. Players Union's not going to meet us halfway. Oh yeah, we're going to run you through this body meter now. It's really going to stop all the people who are putting bombs in their shoes. Oh wait, it never has. There's still a huge gap at baggage claim that, anybody can get anything on a plane. Oh, but you feel better now, right? It's the same concept. It's theater, and it's asinine. And I'm not bagging. It's gaslighting. It's literally this idea that we're bringing somebody in to stop the thing that we started.
I haven't taken a lot of action to stop since we started it. Yeah. Also,
we've taken none.
Taken zero actions.
We threw a proposal out that we knew is not going to be accepted and haven't moved.
Yeah, if it wasn't so serious and the actual baseball season was truly being threatened for the second time in 3 years, right?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask. So it does feel like now, at a minimum, spring training is not starting on time. Would you guys agree with that assessment?
There's no.
I definitely do. Adam Wainwright, Adam Wainwright, Cardinals. He said he would have been taken off this past week to be to Florida on time with his family.
And I want to talk about the Adam Wainwright. I want to talk about the Wainwright situation in a minute about the charity, because it's just, ultimately asinine. But Andy, you and I have been pretty negative Nellies about this from the beginning. So let's say that what we thought could happen, which means we get a similar Mickey Mouse schedule to what we had coming out of the pandemic. Can baseball actually survive that from a perspective of, I know I'm already frustrated by it. Can baseball recover from having 2 Mickey Mouse seasons out of the last 3?
I don't know if recover's the right word. I think it just accelerates the downward trend that we've all witnessed over the last decade of dropping television revenues, dropping television audiences, lower attendance at ballparks, with a couple of notable exceptions. If you only go to ball games in Houston, Texas, you're thinking baseball is pretty healthy. But even then, in a team that has contended for a World Series in each of the last 5 years, you're really talking about a team that still draws 30,000 a game for a 40,000 seat stadium, with some notable exceptions. But those daytimes prior to Memorial Day and weekday games after Labor Day are still rough from an attendance standpoint, and we're doing better than 75% of the league. So outside of your Yankees, outside of your Mets, outside of your Dodgers, I don't know. The way things are currently constructed, I don't know that there's this giant decline where we just shut things down and nobody pays attention to baseball anymore. I think it just continues the steady decline that we've seen over the last decade, and the ownership does not seem to have any idea of how to turn that tide.
I want to clarify something too, because when I see people argue on Twitter, and I know the words of Jake Kaplan, stay off Twitter, are coming back to me. But, people would argue, they would challenge that, Andy, and they would say, no, baseball is better than it's ever been because some of the TV dollars have gone up. And, but we have to clarify that TV dollars in every sport has gone up because it's the only thing people are watching live anymore. And so advertisers are having it's a false flag to say that to do a sort of, it's a causal reaction and not a causation, I guess, is the thing. It's not that baseball is super popular. It's that they need anything with live TV on it for advertisers. That's why TV contracts are up around all sports.
I think to your point, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Yes, baseball TV revenue has probably gone up over the last decade, but it's gone up at a smaller percentage than the NFL by far, than the NBA, and even the NHL. Even the NHL is drawing more dollars on an average from an increased perspective than Major League Baseball is currently. So yeah, it's going up just because the rising tide theory, but it's not going up because people are that much more interested in baseball. And frankly, it's the systematic problem with baseball is that the people who care most about it happen to be on the East Coast in New York and Boston. St. Louis is probably an exception to this, a little bit to the Dodgers. So their perspective of what baseball is not the same as somebody sitting in Kansas City or Denver or Oakland, where they're struggling to keep a team, or Tampa Bay.
Right.
It looks great when you're a Yankees fan. It always looks great when you're a Yankees fan because you can cry because you haven't won a World Series since 2002. And that can be the end of your world, and you're still 19 ahead, or 11 ahead of the next best team in the history of baseball. But the reality is there's a lot of other teams that are going to struggle under the current model, continue to struggle.
Money is providing a false sense of security to owners. I believe. I think they see the revenue dollars, and they're making ridiculous profits still. These teams are. Let's not lie about that. And there's not that competitive balance that there has to be in other sports because there's no salary cap. And come on, let's face it, the luxury tax. These guys don't care. They don't care about the luxury tax. That's not hitting them too hard.
Right.
The teams that are paying. So as long as these owners are still making hand over fist money with this, their look on things has to be, why do I want to change this too much? I'm still making ridiculous profits.
Yeah, and I think when we talk amongst the three of us about the death knell of baseball's not going away. I don't think Major League Baseball is not going away. But it is a situation where fewer and fewer people are going to be interested. So over time, it becomes relegated to a third place activity when you have options on television, when you have options to go to a ballpark.
Right.
And it may end up beyond that. I mean, who's to say that Major League Soccer in the U.S. doesn't get an influx of talent and they really start concentrating on that, because the world has proven that sport will be more popular over time given a chance. And as a complete aside to this, and I don't want to break your train of thought, I love the fact that you're struggling with your microphone because it looks like it's trying to date you.
It really does.
It's just going right to the mouth.
It just keeps going up and up and up. I think I got it locked in now, but so unprofessional.
Boom and shot.
Oh, that is the joys of Mudville. You just roll with the punches.
You gotta roll with the punches. Scott, real quick, fill us all in with the whole Wainwright charity drama, and just kind of shows you how we're kind of losing our minds on stuff. So why don't you fill that in for us?
So former Roberto Clemente Award winner Adam Wainwright has for years been building schools and homes and all of these things, mainly in the Caribbean. It's a passion project that he and his wife run. And as part of this, they had I believe it was a golf tournament that was scheduled, and, fundraiser, come rub elbows with former major leaguers. Really a great way, silent auction. You get a bunch of cash, right, for your charity. A great idea. It's been a huge success for them each year. And Jason Isringhausen, his former teammate, who was an incredible closer for the Cardinals and loved around town, was unable to participate this year because MLB's very stringent rules do not allow players, Wainwright, to consort or talk in any way with people representing teams or the league, which in this case is now Isringhausen, given his day job. So he had to decline the invitation. Adam Wainwright's just a stoic guy. I think the world of the guy. But he comes out on Twitter and just says, I get it, but this is kind of loony land. This is a little nuts that this guy can't come help me with a charity. And likewise, if there's somebody with a team that has a charity and they want to pull players in right now, they can't do that either. I'm sure Adam Waino's charity this is the biggest news of this, but this has to be impacting other people as well. They can't even be in the same large room / golf course / convention hall together because they might talk about something, and then we'd have collusion. Don't tell anyone. So it's silly, man. Contract negotiations between owners and unions have always, whether it's coal mines or that's the other thing too. When there's contract negotiations between coal miners or blue collar workers representing their union and the owners, those mean something, because that's $1.50 more an hour that somebody needs to keep the lights on, right? Come on, man. I mean, owners are still, these are billionaires that are trying to dictate terms to people that have a short window to earn a lot of money. And I
want to hit on something that Andy had mentioned, I think on one of our shows a while back, and it's to that point. And I think it also goes to the point of using overinflated current TV numbers. It seems like the makeup of baseball ownership is now short-term investors trying to make a turn on a profit versus family-ran businesses that we saw before. Andy, you remember talking about that? And do you want to kind of expand?
I don't, because I drink a lot, and I don't remember day to day, frankly. It's corporations, right? So the Yankees don't own a baseball team anymore. The Wrigleys don't own a baseball team anymore. And it's not the family-run organization. I mean, even up to in the Houston market up until 2012, Drayton McLean and the McLean family owned the Astros. They had some investors, but it's not the conglomerate that currently owns that team where Jim Crane is the face, but he has a team of investors under him that have shares of the team. And I think, and that makes sense because we're talking about billion-dollar valuations now. When it was took $20 million to own a baseball team, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
We're talking about billion-dollar enterprises. It does take more dollars. It takes more hands, so to speak. But I think because you have that level of investor that can get in fairly easily, they can get out fairly easily. So the idea that most of your money is made when you sell the team, or at least sell your shares in the team, it has to be more prevalent now. And I think you see a lot of reaction to maximizing profits, which is kind of part. I mean, the owners have always been interested in maximizing profits. That's not, and keeping African Americans out of baseball. That's what the owners have always prided.
That's actually leading my next topic.
But those have been the priorities. It's just the time frame, I think, has been condensed up to the front versus the back end. And that's, I don't think that's unique to a lot of other things in our world in 2022, but that's where you have a different type of person and a different group of people that own these 30 entities that make up Major League Baseball.
So will MLB Network soon have like a love it or list it, sort of flip this house type of a thing for some of these franchises?
I kind of hope.
I mean, it might be the most I would actually watch that show. I would watch that. Hey, we got the Orioles, but let me tell you, the Orioles have potential. There's a lot of good bones here to the Orioles. This whole structure, it's here. I know we've lost 100 games every year since God knows when, but let me tell you, we've got a structure in place that if we tear down a couple of walls, we can flip this franchise for about 820 mil. Let's go.
To an open concept.
Scott, there is no amount of wallpaper and wainscoting that will make me want to stay in Oakland. I am moving where new construction is plentiful. I can get a lot of bang for my buck, and it's going to be in the desert in Las Vegas in 2024.
Because you can certainly get bang for your buck in Vegas.
You're
just outside from what I've
not
heard.
Enough. What is it called? Shiplap? Is that what they use on Joanne?
Oh, no shiplap. No shiplap in Oakland.
No enough shiplap for Oakland. I want to comment on something on the NFL real quick before we get out of here. And I know it's not a football show, but we all are following that. Is it Daniel Florio? Is that his name? Flores.
Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Brian
Flores.
Flores. We are not a football show.
We are not a football show. Is suing the NFL for essentially not following the Rooney Rule. Is it sort of funny that all of this came out because Bill Belichick doesn't know how to use a cell phone?
Well, with everything else that's going on in football right now, with the Daniel Snyder controversies and all the emails and everything going on with the Washington Commanders, if you liked Guardians, you'll love Commanders. Anyway, but so the Commanders, the greatest ever. I love Commanders. I have the best Commanders. But God, I just distracted myself.
Yeah.
But if you look through all the controversy that they've just gone through with the John Gruden firing, with emails, the Freedom of Information Act is not doing the NFL any favors right now. And with the text that he sent Flores, first of all, I don't have text on my phone from God knows how long ago, however many years, but he held on to these because obviously there was something wrong. The Rooney Rule does sniff of let's check that box, make sure we check that box and then go hire the guy. The funny part in all this is I would not be shocked if Brian Flores still got hired by Houston to coach their football team in spite of all this. In spite of
they're
this
hiring Josh
still
McCown. I hope so.
Well, if they hire
I'm just saying.
If the Texans hire McCown, it will happen today, and it will be part of the Friday news dump, so nobody will notice, which is par for the course for the Texans. No, Flores actually disclosed to, I guess, certainly the Texans and one other team that he has interviewed with, that he was filing lawsuits. So this didn't come as a surprise to Houston. It might have come as a surprise to Houston that part of the lawsuit talks about David Culley and his one and done in Houston as fate d'accompli about how the owners view African-American coaches as disposable and fungible. But it's interesting. The Rooney Rule was always a joke, and I think it's well-intentioned, but I think I think it smacks of, and I'll say this as an older white gentleman, smacks of a bunch of old white people trying to solve racism because they've never been really affected by it.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if we give you the chance to interview and never hire you, but we'll give you the chance to interview, that's progress. Well, it's not progress. Hiring people is progress. Supporting them is progress. And in the NFL, frankly, you can look at Mike Tomlin as the one guy who has been supported and has earned that support. But he has had seasons where they haven't been so great. And it hasn't been a question about whether or not he was going to be let go, because the Steelers as an organization, and I know that hurts Cowboys fans to hear, are so well run. And I mean, if there's something you're going to model a professional sports franchise after, the Steelers would have to be high up there as a sample of this is what it should look like and how it should work.
Absolutely.
So it's called the Rooney Rule, and who owned the Steelers? Mr. Rooney.
Right.
I mean, but 1 out of 32. Look, I mean, so that was a great rule in the 80s, 90s, whenever it was put in place, right? It's the right step forward. The problem is they haven't taken another step forward since they instituted the rule. It's time to take more steps forward, period. To bring it back around to a baseball standpoint, baseball kind of needs to start looking at the same thing. To Andy's point, there's a wealth of talent out there that's going to waste every year because kids aren't getting a stick and a ball in their hand because guys are so focused on profit, and they don't see. When I see somebody that looks like me playing a sport, then I can relate to that guy. And that's not the case right now for baseball for a lot of these kids growing up.
But that does bring us to some breaking news that came out at the beginning of the week. Minor League Baseball has launched the 9 initiative, and 9 is reference to Jackie Robinson's number in minor league baseball. But part of that is reaching out to communities of color. And we've talked about it on this show. I've talked about it with Darian Sills Evans, who's been on our show before. And he's like, I grew up a poor black kid who liked baseball, and that was hard for me to connect. But baseball we have to stop it from becoming lacrosse. Like it's becoming a rich white kid sport or a poor Latin guy trying to get out of a Latin American country sport. And we need to start accessing some of that best talent. And some of that talent comes from rural communities and urban communities.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. There are factories, baseball factories in the Caribbean, right? Why isn't there a push for inner city kids? The pictures of watching Italian kids playing in their neighborhood in the Bronx in the 40s and 50s, that's gone. That's absolutely gone. But it still proved, how many of those guys went on to actually play ball? Did they have gigantic fields that they could go play real baseball in? Well, no. And you don't have to have 18 people to be able to play at the same time, especially in this day and age when it's all about how far can you hit the ball. Don't care if you only hit it 1 out of 4 times. How far can you hit it? get outside and start swinging a broomstick at a tennis ball. I don't know. That's what I did. But yeah, I think there needs to be a push for growth. You still see the bonus babies signed out of Bozeman, Montana. This kid, the kid's got a big arm. He's going to be great in the majors.
Yes,
but there needs to be more of a push to the cities. Andy?
But that there's a number of missteps that Major League Baseball has taken when it comes to courting African-American players since the 70s. But one of the biggest failings they have in this country as a whole, which as a byproduct bypassed that generation of kids, was their lack of a unified television contract across the country, a lack of revenue sharing, which goes into that. But this idea that the NBA exploded with Magic, with Bird, and then later Jordan, and has turned into what it is because they were on TV all the damn time. And they took a lesser paying deal to move, I think, from CBS to NBC, because NBC agreed to put multiple games on per week. And you showcased your stars, and you showcased African-American guys doing really, really well. Major League Baseball prides itself on being on the radio and hiding themselves from what the players look like. And eventually you want to go where you see that representation. So if I see Magic Johnson, and I'm talking about really old guys for some of our audience, I see Magic Johnson, I see Julius Erving, I see Bob McAdoo, I see Moses Malone. Those are guys I can relate to. Baseball is something that I have to go to the park and see because there is no television contract in my city. There is no place in Nebraska for me to watch baseball except for one game a week. And so that's part of, and it is certainly a piece of the puzzle, but that's part of what they've missed over this last 40, 50 years, where we've really turned into a world that is centered on social media, television, video, being able to see and feel represented in different things. And I think almost every industry understands that. Maybe not the NFL with their coaching ranks, but certainly, or the head coaching ranks, but certainly their assistants on the field. They do a better job of marketing to different communities. The NBA does a fantastic job of the marketing to the different communities.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball is a really crappy third in that segment.
Well, you're even seeing
the only reason they pull in Latin American Hispanic people in this country is because so many Hispanic players come from impoverished nations to come play here.
Yeah. I mean, and you're even seeing hockey see an increase in the number of African-American players. We weren't even able to get to a topic. We're almost out of time, but I do want to show off something. I don't know how well you can see this, but Scott, I found this.
Birth control.
It's a military challenge coin. And you get these when you do, something good. The highest coin I have is President Clinton gave me a coin in the 90s, but I wanted to show this to Scott.
Here this is. You didn't see the brunette. Keep your mouth shut. Here's a coin.
It's a real neat deal. But this is actually, Scott, from the 142nd Field Artillery Brigade. We were training them. They came up to Germany of your Arkansas National Guard. So I found that, and I thought, all right, guys, well, we'll be back next week for another edition of the Joys of Mudville. Almost forgot what show it was. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more progress. You guys have a good weekend.
Yeah. We'll look forward to that MLB progress.
Right at the